In the year 1962, an Italian ocean liner named Antonia Grazia is smooth sailing in the ocean. Passengers on board enjoy their time dancing to splendid music and great food. Within the crowd, a girl named Katie Harwood is getting bored since she is the only kid on the ship. The captain of the ship invites Katie to dance with him, and they join along with the people on an elevated dance floor. Away from the crowd, a mysterious man pulls a lever that triggers a spool that gradually pulls a wire cord. The spool continuously pulls the wire at a high speed until the wire snaps and slices the group of people who are dancing. Each severed body falls to the ground, but only Katie survives the sudden attack. The scene then changes to the present day, where a salvage crew riding along a tugboat named the Arctic Warrior pulls an old dredger-like ship. They struggle to pull the ship due to the amount of water that seeps inside its cracked port floater. Epps, one of the salvage crews, attempts to fix the damage since she doesn't want to lose the ship that they had been working on for 3 months. Dodge and Munder follow along and help Epps to finish fixing the boat, and they successfully cover the damage to finally take the boat. At a bar, the group receives their money's worth for the ship that they had just salvaged. While they are drinking to celebrate their success, a man named Jack Ferriman interrupts the salvage crew and offers them a business proposal in salvaging a mysterious ship that he saw in the Bering Strait. Jack theorizes that the ship may be adrift since there are no radio contacts from it and it is in international waters where anyone can own it as long as they find it, so the group gains interest in Jack's offer. Murphy, the leader of the group, asks everyone about their decision regarding Jack's proposal since this mysterious ship may either be a hit or miss in being a jackpot for them, and they eventually agreed to salvage it along with Jack. As the sun is setting, the salvage crew goes forth in locating the mysterious ship in the Bering Strait. Santos, who is maneuvering their ship, suddenly spots a big ship nearby on their marine radar, but he starts to get confused since the ship disappears and reappears on their marine radar like it's broken. Santos calls on Murphy for him to check on the marine radar, and as they gain no contact from the nearby ship, they are surprised by the sudden appearance of a ship right in front of them. Luckily, Santos abruptly stops their tugboat, and Dodge, fortunately, escapes a near-death experience in being sandwiched between their tugboat and the ship. The tugboat comes near and around the ship when Murphy realizes that it is actually the Antonio Garza ship that had been missing since May 21, 1962, with its disappearance being a mystery. The salvage crew, leaving Greer, Santos, and Jack behind the tugboat, boards the ship and inspects it. Munder is startled as the grandfather clock in front of him suddenly rings loudly and the crew laughs at him, but they didn't notice the movement of a puzzle nearby that Katie used to play. Murphy and the others continue to look around the ship when Munder steps on a fragile floor that leads to him almost falling through it. Fortunately, Epps saves him on time, and as Epps is pulling Munder, she suddenly sees a girl near a staircase, but the girl quickly vanishes from her sight. Seeing strange things like a digital watch on board which had not been invented since the ship had been reported lost, the group goes back to their tugboat. Murphy tells them about the mysterious Antonio Garza ship, which is actually worth tons of money, so the crew becomes eager to salvage it because of how much it is worth. The following day, Epps and the others dive into the water to check the boat. They see a big hole in the ship's hull which had been hit about a week ago as per Epps' speculations. Murphy demands the ship be fixed in 3 days, but Munder explains that the ship needs a lot of work and 3 days is not enough. With the crew spelling out to Murphy the difficulties in getting everything done in a short time, Murphy still demands them to man up and do their jobs. Seeing the situation, Greer attempts to call the maritime authorities, but Murphy, being too blinded by his ambitions in taking the ship, stops Greer from contacting the authorities to avoid unwanted guests. With no other choice, the salvage crew goes by pair to check on the ship again, while Santos is the only one left at the tugboat to fix their engines. Epps comes across an empty pool and realizes that there were bullet holes in it. As the others are busy looking through each corner of the ship, Epps goes down the pool and looks carefully at the bullet holes and bullet shells. She climbs back up from the pool, but the mysterious girl, Katie, shows up in front of her and Epps falls down as she was shocked to see Katie. Dodge, who is with Munder, calls Epps to inform her about the engine room being flooded, but only static sounds are being emitted by their walkie-talkies. Epps gains consciousness, but the blood from her head injury is sucked by the pool. Jack shows up in front of her and helps her climb the pool. While the both of them are talking to one another, blood starts seeping out of the bullet holes in the pool, which then fills the whole pool with blood and corpses. A woman starts to sing over the crew's radios, and Greer is being allured by the singing voice, which leads him to a spacious room. Meanwhile, Epps and Jack encounter a problem where Epps opens a vent that floods them with water and dead bodies. The door where they came from mysteriously locks itself, so Epps and Jack try to find a different route to escape the room flooded with corpses. Along their way, Jack sees his dream car inside a room, but Epps gets irritated by Jack's childish actions. Then she suddenly sees movement from a box nearby. The pair draws closer to the box and Epps bravely opens it, which reveals a herd of mice inside. They suddenly realize that there are gold bars found inside the box, so they rush to find the others. A voice whispers Epps' first name, which is Maureen, and leads them to a cold storage room where Dodge and Munder were actually pranking Epps. The whole crew gathers around the boxes filled with gold that Epps and Jack had found, and they come together to discuss how they will bring the gold home. As they are all packing up to go back to the boat, Murphy commands them to start their engines, but a propane gas suddenly turns itself on with Santos not knowing about it. Katie appears in front of Epps and attempts to stop them from starting their engines. Unfortunately, Greer starts the tugboat's engine and an explosion occurs which destroys their tugboat and takes away Santos' life. All of them are devastated by Santos' loss since they had been treating one another as a family ever since. Dodge accuses Jack of killing Santos by bringing them to the mysterious ship, and Murphy blames himself for what happened, so he goes back to the captain's room to drink alcohol. Epps on the other hand is looking for Katie on the logbook, and Dodge with Munder is playing games as to who will eat the canned food that had already expired for a long time. Epps continues to look for Katie and Katie leads Epps to her room, where Epps discovers the corpse of Katie hanging on a noose. Meanwhile, a drunk Greer in a spacious room starts to hallucinate and sees tables and chairs moving. The room comes alive with people applauding. A confused Greer and Francesca, the Italian singer at the beginning of the movie, seduces Greer. At the same time, Murphy, who is also drunk from alcohol, is shocked to see the captain of the Antonio Garza ship showing up in front of him and discussing with him what really happened on their ship. Going back to Greer, Francesca leads Greer to a broken elevator, and as he leans on Francesca, he slips through her and falls to his death since Francesca is one of the trapped souls inside the ship. Like what the captain of Antonio Garza ship did to Murphy, Katie also explains to Epps her story, where she was about to meet her parents in New York, and that is why she is the only kid on the ship. Katie also added that there is someone who is responsible for their souls being trapped inside the ship, and she advises Epps to leave the ship while she can. What Katie had said frightens Epps, so she hurriedly looks for Murphy, who is actually hallucinating and being haunted by Santos' soul. The two finally meet up, but Murphy is still hallucinating and thinks that Epps is actually Santos, so they both fight one another until Jack knocks Murphy in the head. The remaining men in the crew throw Murphy inside a big aquarium since they see him as a threat. They also try to look for Greer, who is nowhere to be found, so they continue to stick to their original plan, which is to fix the boat by patching up the breach inside it and pumping out the water inside it, which means that they have to use the ship since they are stranded with no other boat to escape to. Epps continues to look for Greer, but Katie greets her instead by showing the body of Greer, who fell down to his death. Katie then touches Epps, which lets her see the past and what actually happened to the Antonio Garza ship. Epps sees how people who danced along with Katie are killed by a wire cord that sliced their bodies. She also sees men pouring rodent poison on people's food, which eventually kills them. Chaos starts to spark in all parts of the ship, with a crying Katie escaping from the killers, but she is still caught by them and they eventually kill her in her room. Epps also sees the pool where innocent lives were taken by a shower of bullets which fills the pool with blood. The cause of the whole madness that is going on inside the ship is all about the gold that Epps and Jack had found earlier. The men start to grab gold of their own when suddenly one of them goes outside of the room and sees Francesca. The sight of a beautiful woman makes the man turn to his greed, where he kills the other man with his submachine gun. As the man turns around to look at Francesca again, Francesca instantly shoots the man in his head with a pistol. Another mysterious man enters the room and kisses Francesca, but to Francesca's surprise a large hook falls down on her and swings to her face, which kills her. The mysterious man then marks Francesca, and Epps finally sees the man's face, which turns out to be Jack. All the information falls down into place as Epps realizes Jack is a threat to all of them, so she runs back to Murphy, but she is too late since Murphy already drowned inside the aquarium and is showing a photo of Jack's face. With another of her crewmen down, Epps goes to Dodge and tries to explain to him about Jack, but Jack suddenly butts into their conversation, and thus Epps can only give Dodge a gun to protect himself from Jack while she goes to see Munder. On the other hand, Munder, who is still busy fixing the boat and clueless about the whole situation, is sucked in by a machine, leaving only his severed hand underwater. Epps reaches Munder, but seeing blood being sucked in by their equipment, she realizes that she is once again too late to save his crewmate. Back at where Dodge and Jack are, Jack wants to go to Epps, but Dodge stops him, and so Jack starts to intimidate Dodge's ego because of obeying everything that Epps is saying. Jack's remarks anger Dodge, so Dodge lets his anger get the best out of him and shoots Jack. Meanwhile, Epps is already done setting up the bomb to destroy the ship when Dodge comes to her aid and questions her actions of not caring about the gold anymore and just wanting to sink the ship. Epps sees through Jack's trick, who is actually posing as Dodge, and so Jack tells Epps the truth about him being a salvager of souls by inducing a fight between people inside the ship because of the greed of wanting the gold. The two fight off one another, and Epps, fortunately, triggers the explosives which finally sinks the ship. As the ship sinks to the bottom of the ocean, souls from the ship start to swim above and they finally escape from Jack, alongside Epps, who also survives the explosion and eventually hangs on a suitcase that serves as her life buoy. Hours went by and a large cruise ship spots a floating Epps and finally brings her back to land. The movie ends with Epps finally being saved and put inside an ambulance. Epps suddenly sees a group of men bringing the boxes of gold inside another ship, with Jack still being alive and looking straight at Epps. Epps screams upon seeing Jack and the ambulance door shuts right in front of